Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Talking Loud. I'm the host, Andrew Brower, also known as CynicTheCritic. Yes, I'm still trying to make that
has his own
username
YouTube channel now.
Yes, I do have a YouTube channel now. So, thank you for interrupting me, Yoshi, before I introduce you, which I'm going to eventually. So, yeah, like I said, I'm CynicTheCritic, and joining us, we have our usual members, the Anglophile Gamer.
AKA the dead one on YouTube.
Yeah, we also have MuppetSpot.
The person who's trying to make a comeback on YouTube.
And the person who wanted to interrupt me before, Yoshi Player.
Yoshi Player, that's me. Hello. Hello, Yoshi Players. Oh, wait, I can only say that on my channel. Damn it. Anyway.
Right. So, anyways, yeah, now we have our latest episode of Talking Loud, and before we get into this, is there anything that you guys want to like promote or anything? Since I know that a few podcasts ago we promoted Ordinary Girl.
Oh, can we say our one word review of Tripped?
Okay, speaking of Tripped, for those of you wondering if we're going to be talking about it in this podcast, we're not. That's going to be in the one that we did with Mr. Tie-Dye. So look out for it. So if you want to go check out our review for Tripped, it'll be on there. At this point now, if it's not up on YouTube yet, then it should be up by now. We'll have to see. So again, if you want to hear our thoughts on Tripped, then you're going to have to check it out on the podcast that we did with Mr. Tie-Dye. So.
But if you want a short review, it sucked.
Okay, there you go, yeah. So
It must be me because I'm weird.
anyways, so we're not going to be talking about Tripped, because we already talked about that in the last podcast.
Plus,
Instead, we're going to be talking about 4 episodes. We're going to be talking about Past Your Bedtime, Shop Girl, What Would Lincoln Do, and Ruthless People. So let's get started with the one that came after Tripped, and that's Past Your Bedtime, aka the sequel to Back Out There. The boys struggle with whether to attend Liam's barn sleepover or Girl Jordan's awesome pool party. So what do you guys think of this episode?
It sucked.
It was just there, I guess. I don't know. It exists.
If you didn't like Back Out There, I think it's safe to say that you're probably gonna feel the exact same way about this episode because it's pretty much the same thing.
I mean, for Past Your Bedtime, honestly, it's just one of those episodes I didn't care for at all. And I can see why people would like this episode. For anybody who actually likes Back Out There, for Lincoln's friends, you're gonna like this episode because they're pretty much they're pretty much the main characters of this episode.
Along with Girl Jordan,
who barely gets anything to do. So for anybody who's excited to see Girl Jordan, they're gonna be disappointed because she only gets like a couple lines.
Yep, pretty much.
So, I mean, if you're expecting her to grow or develop or be a main character, kind of like how we all expected Sam to be like that in season 3, it's not going to happen for Girl Jordan either. But I'm getting off topic.
Well, they got an ability to disappoint me. I guess they won some points.
Let's focus more on Past Your Bedtime. I mean, I'll say here's the thing with this episode is that I have a hard time trying to think of any positives that I have with this.
Best scenes were the party, honestly.
That's where I have to disagree with you. I think that's where the worst scenes in the episode came in.
Am I the only one who thought it felt forced? All that stuff felt... No, the hot sauce was forced, definitely, but everything else just... For some reason, just felt forced, for literally no reason whatsoever.
Everything that happened at the party, it was just too quick. The pacing wasn't that great. It just felt really forced. And on top of that, it just wasn't that funny.
The hot sauce allergy thing, forced.
Okay.
No, the redhead thing was absolutely forced, because it's really specifically redheads. It's gotta be specifically redheads, and Zach, is...
It would have been more sense if it was something anyone was allergic to, like olives or pineapples or bologna
or peanuts.
Exactly.
My problem I had with the party scenes is that it ties into the message of the episode, which it's pretty obvious that the message of this episode is about how you shouldn't betray your friends over something that you want to do, because you're going to end up getting karma at the end and bad things will happen to you. My issue I have with it is that it feels so forced and heavy-handed, which ties into another episode that we're going to be talking about later in this podcast. But regardless, I mean, with this, it's like they want to make it really clear that with Lincoln and his friends like leaving after Liam goes to sleep, they go to the party, and guess what? Guess what happens? Like, bad things happen to them. Because they want to make it pretty obvious that they've made the wrong decision and that bad things will happen to them and they're bad people. Again, it feels so forced. Not to mention that they left after Liam went to sleep and they were there when he woke up in the morning. So I don't know. It just felt like they really wanted to overly punish them for just to get the message across.
Also, can I ask another thing? Why did Lincoln have other clothes?
Okay, now we're gonna have Muppet ask his weird question.
Okay, if I went to a sleepover at my friend's house, wouldn't you bring extra clothes? You don't know what could happen. I mean, you could get manure on it. Yeah, we'll get to that one.
No, yeah,
to be fair, they were probably in a rush, I reckon.
Well, why can't you just go home, grab a quick change of clothing, and just go out? I mean,
then again,
I do that if I could.
Then again, it was a night. I mean, Liam was asleep. They had all the time to go and get some extra clothes.
I meant, casually, because they were going to the sleepover. Couldn't they just bring their extra clothes to Liam's and just change at Liam's? That's just seems really odd and weird.
And
okay.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, what also doesn't work here is that, again, like I said back out there, I just don't care for Lincoln's friends at all.
They're just not
I will say they do go out of their way to make them stand out a little bit more. Like, they have Rusty be the quote-unquote ladies' man.
No, Rusty's the fit.
And then at least for Zach, they're trying to make him out to be, the nerdy kid who tries to act cool. But I'm also isn't that already what Lincoln and Clyde do? They're, the nerdy kids that try to act cool.
Also, another thing about Rusty. Rocky's dead as fuck.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and then, of course, for Liam, it's all they really want to do for his character is just overly emphasize the fact that he was raised on a farm. And it's we already knew that based off the fact that he has a southern accent, y'all. We already knew that.
That sounds like Lisa.
Because, for the first half of the episode, it's we get it. He's at a barn, and there's a lot of jokes that really fall flat. There's a lot of manure jokes.
Which is,
he's on a farm. Or how, when they're chasing the chickens, when Lincoln, Clyde, Rusty, and Zach are away from Liam, a bunch of angry chickens just randomly show up and just attack them for some reason. And I guess it's supposed to be funny. I don't know. I guess the joke is supposed to be that chickens are bitches, I guess.
No. It's funny. You know what's funny? It's when the crazy chef chases after a chicken. That's funny.
Right, but it's they didn't really do anything. The chickens just... It just showed them, and then it then showed the chickens around them, and then they just started attacking them, and it's just what's the joke here? I don't get it.
Another random excuse to have some fighting in the show, because I guess that's a common theme in it.
Right, and again, in the second half of the episode, it's they go to the party and bad things happen to them, and then they end up getting humiliated by everyone, and then when they wake up in the morning at Liam's, and then Liam's you guys went to the party, I feel betrayed, and they're oh, we're sorry, and all I'm thinking is okay, we get it. The lesson here is that you shouldn't betray your friends and whatnot. Okay, it feels so heavy-handed. It feels like they really want to beat you over the head with the message of saying betraying your friends will end up having bad things happen to you. And then there's a joke at the end involving a pig murder that I will say is probably the only joke in the episode that's kind of amusing.
It's a little.
That's only because it went for a dark turn, but that's really it.
The message would have worked better if it was done in a different way.
Right. And
it could have been. You know what this episode should have been like? Overbooked from SpongeBob.
Yeah, and keep in mind that's the SpongeBob episode that was after the movie. A post-movie SpongeBob episode is better than this episode. What a shocker.
No.
Because for Overbooked, it was creative and it kept doing new things where it's they didn't just keep things monotonous. For this, it just felt really predictable and really heavy-handed with its approach. And again, I can understand why somebody would like this if they enjoy Lincoln's friends. If you find them engaging, and amusing to watch, cool. That's awesome. I just don't care for them, and I would say I don't want to see another episode with them, but I doubt that'll happen. I bet we're gonna get another episode with these guys in it.
Hopefully in season 4. I don't think I can stand another episode of season 3.
Well, I mean, we'll have to
season 3's
see.
already been disappointing, so I wouldn't be surprised if we got another one.
Yeah. But I mean, any other final thoughts you have on?
Yogi crappy season worse.
The next time I want to see these guys, make them more interesting, because right now they're just one-dimensional, uninteresting characters that I don't care about, except Lincoln. So my score, I know I'm usually the only one who likes to give a score, but that's because a lot of people really like to watch my every episode reviews, but average house, 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm in the same ballpark. I would give it like a lower score if it wasn't for the fact that there wasn't enough here that annoyed me or angered me.
It was just boring.
Yeah, it's really on the high point of okay for me. It's like this exists. Cool. This is probably gonna be one of those episodes where if I forget
and
about it for a few months, I'll forget it back completely.
Also, another thing, can we stop it with all this fan art where every time a new female character is introduced, she always has to get paired up with Lincoln in fan art? Like, what is up with that?
I don't know. Let's just move on.
Let's move on. That's going to be for probably another podcast. Anyways, Shop Girl, the episode that everyone was worried about the most. The kids worry that Lenny is too weak, and they try to teach her how to be more aggressive. So, what did you guys think of this?
I thought this was a really good episode. I liked it.
Lenny's best appearance and no spoilers, since fandom things freaking suck, and nobody accuses me on that.
I'm gonna jump the gun a bit here, but this is probably Lenny's best episode since no spoilers. In fact, I'd argue it's probably better than no spoilers actually, because this is the first
I didn't even
time.
do that.
I guess this is technically the first episode where Lenny's actually treated more as an actual character rather than just being an obstacle for the siblings. I mean...
Oh, and being an idiot.
Yeah.
Can't forget that one.
Because in no spoilers, it's like, it's a great episode.
It was mostly about them trying to avoid Lenny because they didn't want her to spoil the surprise. And in other episodes...
And they actually do treat Lenny not more than just an idiot.
Or like along
which is how Lenny should be more.
Where she was also an obstacle. Again, whenever Lenny's the focus, she's usually an obstacle for the siblings to avoid, but in this episode, she's actually really well developed here.
They actually treat her as a real character, unlike... I mean, for as much as I really enjoyed no spoilers, I mean, I'll admit, it does kind of annoy me a little bit that Lenny is merely just treated as just like an obstacle where everyone's like, okay, we have to make sure that Lenny doesn't do this or Lenny doesn't do that. Or in an episode like Along Came a Sister where they have to make sure that Lenny doesn't see the spider so that way she won't do this.
What about driving Miss Hazy?
Right, where it's like Lincoln pretty much needs to have Lenny learn how to drive and get her license so that way he can go to the comic book store. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why Lenny has just been, well, there are a bunch of reasons why Lenny has just been kind of going downhill for me. But it's because, like, again, they've just been kind of writing her character merely as just, like, she's an obstacle for everyone else and they have to try and overcome her. Instead of, like, why don't we just write her as an actual character and develop her? And I feel like for Shop Girl, they did the most that they can with it.
The biggest concern I had for this episode, which was something I think a lot of people had for it, was that I was worried that because Lenny was going to be really aggressive, I was worried that at one point she was going to start turning on her siblings and start bossing them around, because now that she's learned to be more aggressive. Thankfully, the episode doesn't do that. Actually, it kind of throws that out the window towards the end.
I bet that if Lenny was gonna end up like pushing Lincoln on the ground, Yoshi would lose it.
Oh, don't you dare! You're putting bad thoughts in
I wouldn't have minded.
Shush! I already
Well,
experienced that once.
Lenny, so that depends on how you look at it.
I've experienced that many times with Luna. I don't want to have the same thing with Lenny now.
Oh, no, Lenny could turn into Patrick from Karate Choppers.
Karate Star.
Karate Star. Whatever, boss.
Okay.
No, I just like that. Sorry.
Okay, Shop Girl. Back to what I was saying. Okay. What works about this episode is something that, unfortunately, the writers have just been forgetting about with Lenny's character, is that they actually write her character with all of her personality traits. Unlike in Tripped and Frenzy and pretty much most of Season 3 and most of Season 2, like, they pretty much been writing Lenny as like, hey, I'm the stupid one. I pretty much like just make things worse for everybody else because I'm so dumb and whatnot. And it's like, there's more to her character. It's like, you also realize she's really sweet to everybody, and she is really skilled with fashion. This episode applies all of that, and I'm glad they did that. And even if she is still being ditzy, it's not to the level of, like, an episode like Kick the Bucket List, where she really does come off as a moron, and it's just stupid.
Or Band of Pains, where they bring her down and bring... I'm not even going to mention it anymore.
She thought Lincoln was a rock. I mean, she thought a rock with Lincoln on it was... But
that was easily her stupidest moment, and I have no regrets.
She's turning into Patrick, no doubt.
Right, and it seems like we're the only ones that get annoyed with this. Everyone else finds this shit fucking hilarious.
Well,
like, they never
found it funny.
I mean, at least Lenny's not the unlikable kind of stupid. Like,
not funny, it's just making her less...
Still.
Okay.
It's not funny, it just makes me less likely to like her.
But again, I found Lenny really enjoyable in this episode. I also enjoyed how the rest of the siblings were used in the episode. I liked that they actually were concerned for Lenny, and they thought that with her being like, kind all the time and not really learning to like, put her foot down and not be such a pushover, like they thought that she wasn't only going to get by in life and that she was just going to be manipulated by everyone. I like that they showed concern for her. And
unfortunately, the weakest sibling, of course, is Lynn.
Well, even then, like, she's not as annoying as another episode that we're going to talk about. But
she did have one line which annoyed me. There was something she said about
yeah, where, like, after, like, Lenny gets, like, the clothes, then Lynn's like, let's go celebrate and eat. Lincoln's buying. And I'm just like, wow, it's like, you really have to just make Lynn this unlikable? But apparently, whenever Lynn's likable, people find it funny. I don't get it, but whatever.
Hey.
And the only other issue I have with this episode is that, I mean, I like that at the end of the episode, Lenny did learn. I mean, Lenny did pretty much I mean, I wouldn't exactly say Lenny learned anything. If anything, the siblings learned that, like, like, they can change, like, you can't change somebody completely, and, like, if they don't want to be assertive, then, like, they don't have to be.
They can lead a horse to water, but they can't make them drink.
Right, like, for Lenny, even though she learned to be assertive, she also realized that, that's not who she is. She's somebody who's very helpful and kind to others. And she uses her knowledge of fashion to help people. And I really like that they did that.
Hey, can we talk about the possible sequel episode?
Oh yeah, what's it called? Gown and Out?
Crimes of Fashion.
Crimes of Fashion.
Yeah, okay, Crimes of Fashion, which apparently is a sequel to that episode, but we'll have to see when it comes out next month. So, I mean,
this month.
But back to Shop Girl.
We're in July now.
Yeah, back to Shop Girl itself. There's also a fair number of scenes that I did find pretty funny. Like, during that scene where the siblings were, like, talking about how they're concerned for Lenny, like, in the midst of all this, like, Lola, like, changes the channel, and then, like, Lucy, like, then goes after the remote, and then it just gets progressively more crazy. And I for some reason, I found that funny, because it's a background gag that they added just in the midst of all of it, and it fits perfect.
Oh, can we talk about Lola's best line?
Okay, yeah, Lola.
Yes.
Where she decides, like, maybe she should be more nicer, and she offers some guy her French fries, and he's like, no thanks. And then she pretty much, like, take the French fries and gets angry about it. Honestly, that scene is funnier than most of the episodes we've gotten this season. Take
the fries!
And immediately after the episode came out, everyone suddenly just posted a bunch of French fry emojis. It was hilarious.
This is the kind of stuff that makes me like Lola.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's why she's my second favorite character on the show.
I don't get why she has so many characters.
I like Lisa, like a weirdo.
I mean, if it was season 1, that would make sense, but we're in season 3 now.
They're still haters. I've seen them.
Whatever. But point is that Shop Girl, there's definitely a lot that I enjoyed with this episode. Oh, and also on a side note, we did actually get, like, a scene of Lenny and Luna talking, and thankfully, it's not where they're being jerks to each other like Frenzy.
Or Come Sail Away.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to enjoy with this episode. Like, I really enjoyed the message. I loved Lenny here. I enjoyed how the rest of the siblings were used. It was funny. Yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot. This is by far and away one of my favorite episodes of Season 3.
Which is something that we really needed right now.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree. But this is absolutely one of my favorite episodes of Season 3. Probably in the top 5, actually.
This is definitely a really good one, especially after the lackluster week we had last week. It's like, Good, we actually got something redeeming after episodes like Matt's anyway.
But yeah, it's probably my third favorite episode of season 3, underneath Roadie to Nowhere and Head Poet's Anxiety.
My eighth
yeah.
because I'm weird, like some other weird stuff like Bridge Too Far and Self-Improvement. Please kill me right now.
Fuck Fridge Too Far, seriously. I wish I was on that podcast to bash on it.
Okay, I've got some other ones like those I post on Instagram, but whatever.
But yeah, final score.
Yeah,
Final score, Glory House, 9 out of 10. It's
when we
awesome.
posted that podcast, the one that Yoshi was not on, he left a comment that was just funny where he's like, seeing you guys talk about Fridge Too Far makes me sick.
Dude, it's like my second favorite episode of the season.
I'm sorry, I do not like that episode. Anyone who's
I
watching.
get it, but
I have
But I understand. I like that. But
the next episode we're going to talk about is what would Lincoln do? Lincoln
Get
has to
it,
complete
puns?
a woodwork assignment, but has a history of failure on the topic. What did you guys think of this episode?
It would have been better.
You know what?
If they made it more
It could have
but
been a
good,
lot
but it
worse.
isn't great.
It would have been better if they went with another direction. But it
Like, I'm
would have
putting
been
up.
worse.
It's passable, but it isn't amazing.
I was skeptical about this one, but it honestly could have been a lot worse.
It could have been. It would have been better. It would be better, but it would be worse. And I'll stop with the woodworks now.
And I'm the one role playing as Luann on another server. Never mind.
Wouldn't be surprised if
This
Christina
episode was
Shelley wrote
decent.
that title. Yeah, it was a decent episode.
Decent episode. I thought it was one of the better episodes that we've had so far this season. And so far, a lot of the reception on it has been mostly positive. Like, for one, here's actually something that I did come across. Is that somebody said that fans were getting worried that Lincoln would be written out of the show because he hasn't had a lot of episodes focused on him this season. And so some fans got concerned. They're like, "Oh my God, is Lincoln going to be written out of the show?"
If he's gonna be written out of the show, he's the main character. If you think that, that's kind of like what?
Seriously, people were actually thinking that this season. Like, they were thinking that,
The
you know,
main
all these episodes
character.
focus on, like, a sister or another sibling or a family member. It's like, what about an episode with Lincoln? Is he getting written out of the show? Honestly, when I see people saying that, I find it hilarious. I'm just like, you do realize he's still a main character, right?
It's like Foster's Home. Do you think if Blue isn't a focus of the episode, he's not gonna be written off? No, it's not the Lincoln show. It's the Loud House.
It's about the family.
Lincoln's just the one who's there for
He's
the
one
audience.
of the main
right?
characters, just like the sisters are.
And yes, Lincoln's the protagonist, but that doesn't mean he has to be in every single episode. It's the Loud House.
So anybody actually getting concerned that he's being written out of the show, first off, I'm sorry to say it, but I think that's funny. But second, you can relax because now this is an episode where he's the main focus and none of the sisters appear, which that is part of my problem, which I'll get to in a minute. But Lincoln here is likable. Yes, what he does here, it is, let's just say, he's taking the easy way out and not wanting to put in the effort. But I like that he does learn a lesson. Unlike Past Your Bedtime, where the message felt very heavy-handed and whatnot and forced, this message actually does work for the episode, and it doesn't feel like it's beating you over the head with it. Like, it actually comes off more natural. And I like that Lincoln, at the end of the episode, he does, like, even though, like, he does actually complete the project, even if it doesn't turn out a lot well, what matters is that he actually he managed to overcome his fear and do the work.
I've seen a lot of people complaining about what Walt's done in this episode, like they think he was being too mean to Lincoln and they thought it was mean-spirited and not worth it.
I thought
Honestly, I
I
thought Walt was really funny. I thought what he did to Lincoln was absolutely
I thought it was
justified.
actually pretty funny. It's like,
Because remember, Lincoln
it
took the
makes
easy way
sense. It's
out.
perfectly sensible. I mean, you stole his freaking birdhouse. Of course, he's gonna be pissed off.
Of course he's gonna be
doesn't
pissed.
Walt live in a cage?
Okay,
If I
yeah,
were
Walt in this episode.
Walt, I probably would be pissed off. He took my birdhouse from me.
I'll say that even though Walt was a little bit annoying in the third act, where, like, he ends up
was funny in the
sabotaging
first-
Lincoln's whole thing, I'll admit that for most of the episode, I found him pretty amusing. Even though I just don't want his whole character as, like, the family bird to just be like he's always angry all the time, because I feel like if they do that, it's gonna get annoying real quickly.
Birds are happy, like Big Bird and Tweety Bird.
But I guess the joke is like, oh, you think birds are happy all the time? Well, Walt is a dick, so there's the joke.
I feel sorry for Walt. Did he turn into the puffy Angry Bird in Project Loud House?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, oh yeah, he did. Also, what I liked in this episode, they had Rita in the episode, and I liked the scenes that were between her and Lincoln. Like, it was some nice mother-son bonding moments.
I wish the episode more focused on that than teaching Lincoln a lesson.
Yeah, which is one of my issues I had so far with a lot of this season, is that they've been focusing less on slice of life moments and just moments where it involves like character interactions, and instead they've been focusing more on just like setting up a plot as quickly as possible and just like having a goal in mind, so that way the main character or characters can get to that goal, and then like whether they get it or not, what matters is that there's a lesson at the end. I'm just kind of getting sick of this. It's like, why can't we just get an episode that has that focuses less on a plot and just more on what the characters will do? Like an episode like Sweet and Sour, where there's not really much of a straightforward plot. It's really just the families at the hotel and they are doing what they usually do. Or in Party Down, where it also doesn't really have much of a straightforward plot. It's just Lori having a party and she's trying to keep it together. Again, these are episodes that don't really have a straightforward plot where it feels predictable and you know exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, from Party Down, Sweet and Sour, you know where it's going to go, but at least it doesn't feel as straightforward and predictable as episodes like What Would Lincoln Do, which I think is my main issue I have with this episode.
And can we talk about
Also,
the worst person?
What?
Clyde.
Okay, Clyde. I didn't like him in this episode, and I have no idea why they had to turn this into a Clink and McCloud episode.
It wasn't necessary.
Honestly, they should have just kept Clyde. If they just kept Clyde during the scenes where they're at school, that would be fine. But I don't really know why he was needed in the third act of the episode. They could have just gotten like a sister involved. Like maybe they could have like had something earlier where there was established that this sister would be a little bit play more of a major role in the episode and whatnot. That would have been more interesting. I feel like for Clyde, it's just like, you know, let's just throw him in because like he's his best friend.
Like he's his best friend, and all he does is just agree with Lincoln.
That's his
and he tries to have his own running gag, but it doesn't even work in this episode.
Oh,
okay, yeah, like not only is Clyde
like,
just tedious and not funny in this episode, but they try to have this running gag where he's afraid of balloons, and just like with Past Your Bedtime, for this running gag, they beat you over the head with it, where it's like, hey, remember that Clyde is afraid of balloons? And they really overemphasize that at the very end of the episode, which
okay, I have a question.
Like, we get it. He's afraid of balloons.
I have a serious question. Can somebody put this in the comments if they were, in seriousness, if they were afraid of balloons as a child? Because every kid I know loves balloons.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually was kind of afraid of balloons. But let me explain. Let me explain. I was afraid more of a balloon popping.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Okay, the sight of balloons, I wasn't scared of that. But, like, a balloon that looks like it's going to pop, that did kind of scare me a little.
Okay, that makes sense. But if you just had, like, if you saw a Macy's balloon, would you be scared of it?
A Macy's balloon?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, like the Macy's things.
If I saw a balloon animal, no, I wouldn't be scared by it. Yeah, and it's like, okay, I get it. Like, Clyde is loyal to his friend, Lincoln, and that, like, he would help him out and whatnot, but does anybody find this interesting in any sort of way?
No.
You know, like, that's one of my main issues I have with Lincoln and Clyde's relationship. It's not that they don't get along, they just get along too well. There's not really much of a fun dynamic between the two where they have differences with each other.
The main character, really.
Like, you know, like, rip off their character.
Said it thousands of times, but Clyde's dad's more interesting than he is. And usually, if a Clyde episode is anywhere close to good, it's probably because his dads are in it.
Right, I mean, like, what makes a great friendship or a great duo are that you have characters that don't always get along, but they still find a way to meet in the middle and get along with each other, despite their differences.
Mac and Blue, Bert and Ernie.
Mordecai and Rigby, Mabel and Dipper. You know, like, for Lincoln and Clyde, I don't see it, because it's like they have to agree on every single thing. But even with all that, I still enjoyed What Would Lincoln Do. I think it's a decent episode. I'm not going to say I would come back to it often, but if it comes on, then I'll watch it. I don't mind it.
So my final ranking, even though I have had issues with this episode, I thought it was decent. I'd probably put it in the Glory House. On the lower end, on the lower scale of Glory House though. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. I wish it was a little more. I wish it was just a little bit more slice of life. We did not need Clyde here. He was completely unnecessary. But other than that, yeah, this is a good episode. I enjoyed it.
It's good. It's kind of on the lower end of good, so...
Can we talk about the episode that broke?
Okay, let's talk about the episode that seems like it's probably going to go down as the Brawl of the Family of Season 3. Actually, no,
Oh,
no.
good lordy.
I was going to say no such luck, but I'm like, nah, that episode did more damage. Brawl in the
So
Family.
far, this is the most mixed episode according to the fan base because it's gotten a lot of mixed reviews. That episode is Ruthless People.
Ugh.
Ruthless People. When the
That's
house
the
What's
is
to say about it?
When the
Yeah,
house
let
is
me go
infected
first.
with termites,
I forgot to punch you.
half the family stay with Pop Pop and the others stay with Aunt Ruth. What did you guys think of this episode?
Can I go?
I
crazy
watched
for
it
a
the
minute?
first time, and I thought it was actually not that bad. It didn't phase me. I watched it again, and I just fell.
I'm not gonna say what I thought about it yet because I want to save it till the end because I have some choice words to say about it. But
Okay. Can I go first?
Hell.
oh boy, let's let
Okay.
the broken one go first.
All right.
Yes,
This
let's do
episode
it.
was completely awful. I mean, what the actual fuck? I mean, oh look, it's Lincoln, and he has to be tortured. And why must you do this to me? You show that breaks me every time when you do this. And then Luna gets tortured, and then Lincoln's just a jerk, and then Lana doesn't get karma. And just oh my god, this episode.
That
Alright.
sounded a lot more like a forced rant
No,
instead of
I
feeling
just-
natural. I'm sorry.
I can't. I'm sorry. I'm in a quiet environment.
Alright, let's,
Alright.
let's explain what happens, and then I want to talk about it because
Alright,
I do too, because I listed quite a few things off that were already kind of mentioned, but
yeah, okay, yeah, the episode itself. Here's the thing, is that I don't think this is the worst episode of Season 3. That still goes to Frenzy, hands down.
without a
that's
doubt.
what was
I
a fan opinion in my
I don't
book.
even think Tripped is worse
Fight
than
me.
it, but this is still not a good episode.
This so fucking broke me.
And the thing is that this episode could have worked. I think the plot itself, it does sound interesting.
Ripped off friends.
Thank you for mentioning that. I'm not going to spend too much time with this, but there was an episode of Friends that had a plot similar to this, where it's like, you know, like Rachel and Phoebe's apartment, it burned down, and then like one had to stay with Monica, and then the other had to stay with Joey, and then like they each try to like see like who would stay with who and whatnot. And then like at first, like when you stay at Monica's, it's like you're living in paradise and whatnot. Where you're living at Joey's, it's like you're living in a bachelor pad and it's gross. And that's what it's like for the first half of the episode. And then the second half of the episode, it's like when you're living with Monica, you're realizing you're living with Monica and she's like a complete neat freak and is always trying to please people. Whereas when you're living with Joey, it's like you can just relax and kick your feet up and not really worry if there's a mess or whatnot. You can just like, you know, just have fun and whatnot. And I like what the episode did, not Ruthless People, but the Friends episode, is that it subverted expectations and it kind of flipped what would be considered good living and bad living. And it was very humorous. It was enjoyable. Something I can't say about Ruthless People, because for this episode, the problem I have here, well, what my main issue I have here, I have a bunch. My main issue is the moral of the episode. Is that it seems like it's trying to have this message about, it's just like a past your bedtime, where if you do bad things, then bad things will happen to you. Like, if you do something that's considered selfish and only beneficial for you, then bad things will happen to you. At least for past your bedtime, it made sense. It was heavy-handed, but it made sense. For Ruthless People, it doesn't make any sense because for what Lynn Senior's group, which includes Lori, Luna, Lynn, Lincoln, and Lola, they didn't really do anything wrong. Like, they asked to switch places with each family member in exchange that they would do something.
They asked to swap, and they made offers twice. By the way,
Offers twice, and yet they still get the short end of the stick because I guess they still did something that was selfish. So
I have no idea.
bad
Lincoln's
things
only gets screwed because it's Lincoln. Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't.
oh, that's not even the only thing I could say because of Lincoln thing too. Like,
It doesn't really make any sense. Now, if Lynn Senior's side was tricking Rita's side and like tricking them and whatnot for selfish reasons, then it would make sense. But they didn't really do anything wrong.
Exactly.
So for them to get
They just
punished feels unjustifiable.
and yes, and just for some reason, when it focuses on one particular side, it always has to have them get punished for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And here's the thing. This episode tries so hard to say that when you're doing something like this, it's terrible, but not only do what they do isn't even that bad, it doesn't feel justified. The episode is a mess because everything doesn't make any sense. There are things here that just piles on top of each other because I guess the writers want to try and be a little bit more silly and, you know, not try as hard to, like, have characters learn a lesson. And by the way, the episode just ends for some strange reason. The episode.
One of the biggest problems.
The episode. No.
Where there really isn't a
actual
clear
resolution.
No.
They didn't go home. It just stops.
We're all talking at once
Right
here.
then and there, Aunt Ruth. It's like, what was the point?
The episode just.
What did this bring? What was the point?
It just stops. The episode just stops because, like,
Just like restraining SpongeBob.
I keep getting interrupted. God damn it.
Sorry.
Aunt Ruth's lake house suddenly has termites, and nobody before noticed that. And all of a sudden now, Rita's side is having a fun time. So they did some stupid illogical storytelling just to have Lynn Senior's side suffering while Rita's side is having a fun time. This episode, I will say this. I liked Lenny in this episode. I thought she was alright, I guess. You know, she was friendly, I guess.
Yeah, Lenny was fine. I thought Lola worked for what she was doing, and
other than the
Lenny was
comedy,
but
but the comedy itself, oh my god, it is awful. I mean, I want to talk about Lynn first. I really hated Lynn in this episode. Like, at the beginning of the episode, like, she smashes through the wall and she's just like, oh, I'm probably really strong. I have really good muscles. Just shut up, Lynn. Seriously, you're not as funny as you fucking think you are. And then there's 2 moments where she threatens Lincoln, and then she just has a fart joke. Like, here I am, just sitting here. How is she the most popular? This doesn't make any sense. You're leaving me sitting here with no reason as to why Lynn is the most popular character. But, as much as I didn't like Lynn, what about Lana? Can I talk about Lana just for a second?
Yes.
You know what? No, I can't even defend her in this case. Go!
I cannot defend Lana. This is easily her worst episode. And she's the only character who doesn't get any karma for what she does. There's a bunch of termites, but she says, oh no, don't kill them, they're really cute and stuff. Lana, you fucking ate bugs! You eat bugs! You don't let them survive, you eat them! And you're willing to put your whole family out of a home just to protect some little termites? But fuck you, Lana, fuck you!
Yeah, you're gonna be your entire family rely over termites, but eating bugs in the past. Wait, never mind, that's continuity. We can't have that in the Loud House, how can we?
But wait. We're supposed to be okay with this because, like, it's Lana, it's cute, and she threw a disco party so they can leave.
No, disco!
No, that's not cute.
That's justifiable. That's why nothing bad happens to her.
That's totally not justifiable.
Good, writers. Stop using minuscule reasons for us to feel sorry or sympathy for characters. It doesn't work that way. Fuck.
I want to talk more about my problems with this episode.
Alright. We didn't even let you
Anyway,
talk, so go ahead.
Okay, like I said, Lenny's fine for what she has in this episode. I even didn't mind Lola here. Pop, he barely got anything to do, but I don't know. I thought he was okay.
Oh,
but like, again, the 2 characters. But unfortunately, it just seems like everyone else here just doesn't get much to do. I mean, obviously Luna gets nothing because, you know, after Rory to Nowhere, let's just give her nothing to do, just like we did in Season 2, because that's what the fans want. And then most of the other siblings, again, they don't get much. Like, I don't even remember anything Lori did in the episode.
Leave the one playing with blood plasma because, you know, it was totally funny in Garage, but no, it wasn't.
But, just like...
It's not funny here. It's just weird. I like
saying.
What?
You have the fucking character of Aunt Ruth in the title, and she doesn't even make a speaking role. I don't even remember her in the episode, so it's like, why?
Funny enough,
the
Aunt Ruth thing didn't even bother me, considering that I never even liked Aunt Ruth to begin with, so I wasn't even bothered by that.
I was bothered by that. You have a character in your fucking title, and they don't even make an appearance. It's like having a title with Luna, like...
I think it was a cameo at best.
Okay, so, yeah, like, the problem with the plot here is that for the first half of the episode, it's pretty much like... the second half of the episode, it just repeats what the first half of the episode did, where in the second half, they pretty much call each sibling on Rita's side, and then they're like, "Hey, in exchange for this, for you to go to Pop Pop, so I can go to Aunt Roots." It's like you're just repeating what you did in the first half. So I mean, like
So
it
feels
doesn't
like
really
we're
involve
just
the
watching
follow-up,
the same
and then
episode
it
twice
just
in a row.
and then it just ends where they're at Aunt Roots, and okay, but back to what you were saying, like the two characters that definitely got on my nerves the most here were Lynn and Lana. And unfortunately now, I already know, I can already tell we've already made a bunch of people angry just for talking about Lynn in a negative way.
I don't care
Sorry.
what people
I don't care what
Because like
people
now,
think.
after Net Gains, it's like we can't talk anything bad
No, I
about
don't
Lynn.
care.
Because now
I don't
people
care.
like her because of Net Gains, which I'm gonna be honest, people really overpraise that episode. It's
Overrated.
not
I mean,
that.
I like that game,
I
but I'm
like
not gonna
it.
love one over that episode at all.
I like Neck Games. I think it's good, but it's not amazing. Like
But people
Net
really
Games-
overpraised it, and they
Net
just
Games
like
definitely wasn't.
called it
Lynn's
one of the
character.
best episodes in the series just because Lynn learned her lesson.
You know, it's good that she learned her lesson, but it's not enough for me to accept her as a good character.
Not
Like-
using minuscule
And-
reasons to accept characters or even accept episodes as fantastic or whatever the hell.
And this episode pretty much gave all the things that I hate about Lynn. Like for starters, like after she like breaks through the wall and then she lightly apologized, and it's like, well, I guess like my muscles managed to break through. And seriously, and I'm like, you wonder why there are people that don't like you. Like you think now after Net Games, people are just gonna find this shit funny? This is annoying.
Exactly.
You know,
and yet people
but
will
apparently
just
it worked because there are people that did find this funny. I guess if you found it funny, let me know in the comments below why.
Every
but
time I hear comments like this, it's just, oh, it's funny because it came from Lynn, so that automatically makes it funny. It's just,
That's not funny.
It's-
it's not funny.
yeah, and then like she threatens Lincoln, which doesn't surprise me at all because it's like
Yeah, and this
let's-
coming from people who probably say,
I'm
oh,
not gonna
Lynn's a
bother.
nice sister to Lincoln. She's not nice to Lincoln. She's rarely been nice to him. The only
and
time
then and
that she's been nice to Lincoln was in Dance Dance Resolution, and I guess technically April Fool's rules, but that's about it. She's a dick to
and
Lincoln.
then of course in the second half of the episode when she said pop pop, she farts because it's Lynn.
Okay, okay.
And,
I have a question for everyone. How many of you have been in like a hospital or a nursing home?
I've been in a hospital before.
Okay, have you ever eaten at the cafeteria?
I think so.
Was the food did the food look like mush?
No, it didn't.
Exactly. Why do we think it's funny when we see the characters eating like mushy food?
I don't know, but I want to continue on with Lana, and yeah, just like Yoshi said, this is easily Lana's worst appearance yet.
Lana should get punished. She should get.
Because for one, like she's the reason why like this whole thing started with the house having termites and whatnot.
And she
It's
eats
like, well, we
funky
can't
bugs
kill
like the
them.
Oogie Boogie Man.
And it's like, you know, like, oh, we can't kill them. Like, you know, they're just harmless little creatures. And I'm just like, they're pretty much putting your family in danger, you know?
Wait, and it's not.
And
cute,
of
it's
course, like, they have
frustrating.
this joke where Lynn Senior faints, and then, like, they have to wake him up with Lana's stinky shoe, which I'm like, wow, they really are trying to be here. And then, and again, like, it's all her fault, and yet she just doesn't have anything bad happen to her because, I don't know, she threw a disco party for them, so that's
That's not
justifiable
a-
enough for her to be like, oh, she shouldn't get punished. Like, she's protecting innocent little creatures.
That's not. They're not innocent. They're pests. They're vermin. They're little bugs that eat your house.
But, yeah, that's all I have to say. Everything else about this episode, you guys already talked about, so I'm going to have a lot more to say in my review for this, which I'll have up. Which my review for this will probably be up by the time this podcast is up.
I'm glad at least managed to mention Lana and Lisa. Holy crud.
Okay, can I say one more thing?
What?
Fuck this episode. This episode made me lose interest in Loud House even more.
Fair
than
the same thing to me.
it is, and I just can't wait till the season is over because I'm about at this point it's done. DONE done.
All right, Yoshi, your score.
Well, if this episode had worked the same way that Friends episode did, I should probably watch Friends. I've never watched it. I mean, all
Oh,
the
it's
things,
amazing.
all
One
the
of the best
things you
sitcoms
say,
of
all
all
the
time.
things you say about it just makes me want to watch it. My family
really
watches
good,
it all the
actually.
time.
It's all available on Netflix, so you can watch
Oh,
it there.
that's good. But anyway,
Oh,
back
or-
on topic. You see, if this episode simply worked the same way the Friends episode did, like in the first half, Lynn Senior's side doesn't like it, but Rita's side enjoys it, and then in the second half, you have Lynn Senior's side enjoying it, and then Rita's side not having a good time, then that would show a much better lesson that not everything is perfect. Some things are going to have pros and cons, and, you know, I think that would have worked a lot better for this episode. But instead, It just relies on punishing Lynn Senior's side because apparently they were wrong for what they were doing, you know, even though they made fucking offers. And in general, it's just a mess.
Lana is punished.
Like, Lana is freaking irritating. It's hard to say whether I hate Lynn or Lana more, but I think I'd probably have to say I hate Lana more. Like, I'm used to the shit that Lynn does, but... And again, the episode, it just ends, and it's a giant mess. It all feels rushed, unfinished, and just...
This feels like a first draft.
This feels like a season 1 episode. This is
No,
what
wait, this feels more like the first draft of a first draft.
That's what I just
Exactly.
said.
It's like they had a script. Let's just go along with it because we think it's freaking hilarious.
Maybe they should have had another writer.
It's like you feel like other episodes have several scripts, and then this one just had one. Like, that's what it feels like to me. So, final score? Well, if my rant wasn't obvious, this is a Garbage House episode. 4 out of 10.
Yeah, I want to take
It's not the worst episode of season 3. That'd probably be Frenzy, and I do think Tripped is worse as well. But it's probably my third least favorite. This episode.
I want to take a shit on this episode.
And in general, it's just mostly boring. It's a mess. It's just a mess. That's all I can say.
It's not even a funny episode.
It's
It really
not even
isn't.
funny, really. There's nothing I
not
found
that
funny
good.
here.
Yeah. Okay. So as a whole for this week, it was all over the place.
It's pretty mixed.
It was.
I mean, yeah. So
it was like a box of chocolates, basically.
I guess yeah. So for me, best of the bomb is easily Shop Girl. I think no one's gonna argue with that. And worst of the bomb is going to Ruthless People. So
Or Tripped, if you want to count the fact that it was aired the same week.
I still
But we
probably
have
the
already
people
talked
for
about
it.
it, so...
I mean, I run on it, but it's just mediocre. It doesn't work. Not funny, save for like one gag.
anyways, Vossi, yours?
Best, hello, Shop Girl. I mean, obvious. Worst, Ruthless People. Doesn't ruin, like I said, doesn't ruin Lana for me. And it's really just mediocre at worst. But if you're literally giving me with one funny gag about a goose crime scene, yeah, no.
All right.
This will probably just get worse the more I watch.
All right, Yoshi.
Alright, I know I usually like to do this from best to worst, so before I get started, it's easy to say that Tripped is the worst episode of the week, and I wasn't going to mention it, but it did air, and because it aired this week, it's the worst of the week. I think it's worse than Ruthless People. But for the episodes we talked about, the best of the week, without a doubt, is Shop Girl. I mean, this episode, with every good episode that Lenny's having, it's starting to make me like her more as a character again, because I used to love Lenny. So let's hope that she returns to being my favorite sister on the show. Second best of the week would probably go to What Would Lincoln Do? I thought it was surprisingly decent, and I was a little worried about it, considering that it didn't look that interesting to me. Second worst of the week would probably go to, not probably, definitely, Past Your Bedtime. It's just boring, that's all I can say about it. And worst of the week, no shit, it's Ruthless People. This episode, as I said, it's just a mess. It's a mess.
All right, Muppet.
No shit, Sherlock. It's Shop Girls. That's the best. And the episode I want to take a shit on is Ruthless People.
Which is the worst. Yeah. So that
I'm
was.
gonna be watching. I'm gonna be reading The Killing Joke after this.
I hope you have fun with that, Joker. Anyways, so that was our podcast. Next, we have new episodes that are going to be coming out at the end of July, as Yoshi said, with
We have
Crimes of Fashion.
so far the only episodes that have been confirmed for some reason is Breaking Dad and Crimes of Fashion. The other 3 episodes are unknown, which is odd.
Dun dun dun.
So we'll have to wait and see. So look out for. So we'll have the podcast on those episodes sometime in August. So look out for that. But until next time, I'm Andrew Brower, aka CynicTheCritic.
I'm Anglophile Gamer.
I'm Yoshi Player.
And I'm gonna be seeing what psychological tricks I can pull on people.
And we'll see you guys next time.